Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Let me just have more people to come into our session. So let's just do a countdown. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching us from different time zones, good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Marilyn. I'm the CEO and founder of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CPS, and we brand ourselves as the Asia's most trusted customized solutions partner. Registered as an event services company in Singapore, organizing training and summits to generate profits, cost savings, and impact towards your business. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest, starting from Annie Chong, a transformational trailblazer. Annie is the global manufacturing IT lead for Illumina and head of IT for the Singapore hub, where she turns complexity into clarity by aligning people, technology, and purpose to drive digital transformation. She's also a culture connector and change champion, where she founded the Association of Change Management Professional, which is also called ACMP in Singapore chapter. Annie has championed change management as a strategic capability across industries and foster a growing community of change professionals. She's also a certified life and professional coach, Six Sigma and change expert. Annie lives with heart, empowers with insights, and believes that future belongs to those who lead authentically. Hi, hi, Annie. Would you like to add
Hi.
some more?
No, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And we would like to introduce as well Elizha Corpus. Elijah's mission to guide individuals and organizations towards defining and creating their desired impact. She was part of the Microsoft Global Learning Development team where she experienced how organizations can contribute to creating environments that promote empathy and learning. She is a graduate of UP Diliman with a degree of psychology and MA in Human Resources and Labor Relations at Michigan State University. Hi, Elijah. Would you like to add in to your introduction?
Hi everyone, good afternoon, and I hope the people who are watching in the Philippines are all staying safe and dry in this weather we're having.
True, true. And I'm glad to say that I'm also experiencing that. Although I'm based in Singapore, I'm here in the Philippines. And of course, we would like to invite also Jayson Lo. Thank you so much for accommodating us despite your uh, busy schedule as well. And Jayson Lo is a global speaker, best-selling author, and leadership expert. He's the creator of UNIQUE method and never a dull moment. Wow. Trains teams in sales, leadership, and personal growth, certified coach in strengths and emotional intelligence, inspiring change worldwide. Would you like to add anything more, Jason, before we start with the Q&A?
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much, Marilyn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for those who are watching us live today, please do join us in this conversation. This is not about just us discussing about change management. And this is a very interesting topic to be exact, right? And today we will be focusing more on the human factor or the human side of transformation, the logic, while it's kind of like a challenge and probably an opportunity for organizations to change behaviors, um, to run this transformation. Last time they don't have like, change management or transformation officers, but now we see a lot of these designations in most organization, right? And again, change is constant, but resistance is real. I think that's the best way to put that together. So to start with, I would like to address my question to Annie. So, being a change practitioner yourself in the IT digital transformation, and also as a life coach yourself, right? It's everywhere. It's not limited to professional changes, right? So, what causes the most resistance to change, and how can leaders better anticipate and manage it?
Right. So to me, resistance often stems from disruption to familiarity. So when something changes, it interrupts our routine, our habits, our sense of control, right? And if you look at it from a medical sense, the body and the brain naturally needs time to process. But in the real world, especially in business, change comes so fast with little time for us to pause and reflect. And worst still is that when you are part of a change that happened yesterday, you are told that, hey, something happened yesterday. That's where change management comes into the picture to play a critical role because it's not just about managing tasks, right? It's about supporting
Mhm,
people through uncertainty. And
mhm,
resistance shows up when people don't understand the why. I strongly believe in that.
mhm,
When they don't
mhm,
understand the why, and reality is that people will change only if they feel there's a need to change. So they need to
mhm,
understand the why. And when they feel that the change is being done to them rather than with them, and when they don't know how to move forward, right? So leaders need to communicate more with their people and
mhm,
early, consistently, and be
mhm.
honest about your expectations, right? So pretty
Yeah.
much involve them very early, co-create the change, personalize the change. We'll say all of you, because everyone takes the change differently.
Mhm,
Listen to your concerns, and finally equip them how to navigate through the change. Because at the heart of it, change is not a strategy. To me, change is about the people.
sure. I love that. I love how we started this, as you've mentioned, and I'm sharing that here, that in managing change, the challenge is normally not being able to communicate enough on the why, right? And I really appreciate you giving us already like very practical tips on how can we make it easier for us to make that change, the how to's, how to communicate early, co-create, and let them know the strategies or the how-tos to the changes that are happening, right? So thank you so much. And next to that is I would like to ask the question to Elijah. So we, uh, Annie mentioned earlier, like some of the tips uh, to those changes on how can we make it easier for organizations and leaders to have that happen or to make that happen, right? So, um, in your case, I mean, you handle training, leadership, and people a lot as well. So, how do you distinguish between healthy pushbacks and toxic resistance within your team? Or your previous teams,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. And very important to be able to distinguish that so you can approach it in different ways, right? So if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it, healthy pushback is rooted in concern. It's when people
Mm-hmm.
want to improve. That's why they're pushing
Mm-hmm.
back. Versus toxic resistance is rooted in this desire to be right or to have control over the situation. So for me, I like to look at three things. So number one,
Mm-hmm.
how was the framing of the comment? Usually, if people are saying it in a question, so for example, can we try this? Or have you thought of this perspective? Usually, that's healthy pushback versus
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when people say you're wrong or that's not right. When it's that declarative, most of the time, announce toxic resistance. So that's
Mm-hmm.
number one. Number two, I like to listen to the tone. So healthy pushback will sound calm, curious, engaged, versus toxic resistance is when people could sound defensive and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
even sarcastic. So they're trying to find an argument in the way that they talk about things. And then number three, I look at openness. When people are pushing back in a healthy way, they want the conversation to continue. They want to continue the discussion. Versus if it's toxic resistance, it's like they just want to close the conversation right there. They don't want to engage anymore because they just want to prove they are right, or maybe they want control over the situation. So for me, those are the three things that I like to listen for or observe when it comes to looking at pushback to change.
Wow, thank you so much. And I'm just flashing the summary of those that we want to see or we want to create during the transformation. The comment that they share, the tone has to be calm, curious, and engaging, as you've mentioned, and the openness in terms of the comments that they shared. And before I actually ask the question to Jason, let me just share like Annie. Jacqueline is cheering for you.
Mm.
And then we have here Peter. To what extent do you feel resistance is already embedded in the culture of an organization? Perhaps this could be a part of, or after, we can answer this after the question for Jason, right? Um, so the question for Jason is actually what strategies would help you maintain trust and clarity during the periods of uncertainty, which always happens during transformation, right? And I guess the question that Peter would ask will be the follow-up question for you.
Yeah. Well, it would really help if an organization, a company would have frameworks, but
Mm-hmm,
it would depend if the organization company is smaller or it's a large organization. So frameworks would be key. In
mm-hmm,
Good to Great, they have this. Um, they studied the difference between the great companies and the good and average, and they found out that the great companies, they abide by
mm-hmm,
this principle. They know the things that should not change,
mm-hmm,
and they also know that the things that they can change. So they call it preserve the core and stimulate
mm-hmm,
change, because as ironic as it sounds, change is the only thing that never changes, or it doesn't change. But now, having that mentality, it's important
mm-hmm,
to invest in our people in terms of our relationship with them, and
mm-hmm,
you will see that in the long haul. So one particular framework which I'll be sharing there is for us to have a common vernacular. We can use assessments to understand the different people in our organization, those who will
mm-hmm,
instigate change. It's easy for them to change, and those who might take time for them to embrace change, because
mm-hmm,
they're also more reflective. They're studying the environment, and you need these people also in your organization. And then lastly, I like what Elisha mentioned about the toxic resistance and the healthy pushback.
mm-hmm,
It's really crucial for us to have a way to have, for Filipinos, we want to call it constructive conversations, but it's really about constructive conflicts. To have healthy conversations, and it will become part of our vernacular, that it's okay for us to have healthy, sometimes fights, but after the meeting, then
mm-hmm,
it's then dandy. We're all friends again, because our goal is, of course, for the company and not for our own agendas. So I guess having frameworks that everyone understands will be very important.
mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, as you've mentioned, framework is key to this change that is happening within organization. So let me just show that again for the audience who just joined us in. And again, there's a follow-up question here. Please feel free to answer that, Annie, Eliza, or Jason. Um, Peter Colley asked, to what extent do you feel resistance is already embedded in the culture of an organization? For example, cynicism, silence, or collusion.
So allow me to take that question first. So to me,
Yeah, I'll go
mm,
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So here the question is about culture. So culture here is not referring to an individual, it's a group of people, right? A group of
Mhm,
people thinking the same way, like they don't like change. So how is that reflected? I would say firstly, um, the first sign for me is change is only talk at the top, top level, right? So it doesn't engage the people below.
mhm,
And that's the first sign for me. Second sign would be when team members are fearful of making mistakes. That's mean to them they cannot. There must be something that's occurring in the culture that they cannot make mistakes. And change is
mhm,
experimental sometimes, right? And thus they are fearful. So top down fearful, high turnover during change. When we before we implement change, we start to see attritions. That gives you a very clear sign that this company is not ready. The culture is not ready for any change. So that's three signs for me.
So again, that's it stays in the change is only on the leadership level, and when culture of
Mhm.
fear is seen in the organization. Did I get it right?
Yes,
Did I miss
and
something?
and then high turnover. They leave.
High turnover. Okay,
Mm.
thank you. Anyone else would like to add to that?
Yeah. So I think for me to add to the frameworks that Jason mentioned earlier, having data is one of the most important things that you can do because culture, especially when we talk about change, it could feel very abstract, right? Like you don't see something that leaders might immediately be able to observe. So giving them
Mhm,
data is what would illustrate these things for them to make that culture more tangible in terms of behaviors, in terms of the way people work together. And sometimes you don't even need to gather new data just specific to change management. Look at what you already have, like employee surveys. Most companies would do annual climate or culture surveys. So looking into questions there around, I feel safe at work, or I can talk about mistakes and new ideas at work, or I have one-on-ones with my leader. Like these questions could be indicative of the relationships that people have in the
mhm.
organization. So really zoning in on that data could give you an idea of how people feel about change in the organization.
Thank you for that add on. And we might have. Oh, okay. It's a comment from Abigail that change is about the people. Very correct, Annie. So this is a comment from earlier's answer from Annie. And there's another question here. What do you feel about understanding the adaptability of people to adapt change? This might be a great indication of who to approach as a change advocate, for example. So anyone who'd like to add into this understanding of adaptability?
Yeah, definitely. Well, change is instigated. It starts with the leaders. So if the
Mhm,
leader is not open to change, or they don't have this, they're not secured enough to
mhm,
really hear their people also, then it will be
mhm.
difficult. That's when silos are built. And when silos
True.
are there, now we want the culture, the way we do things around here, to be
Mhm.
as like a common language for everyone. However, when
Exactly.
silos start to form, then now my
Mhm,
agenda is not anymore for the company. It's now for my group,
mhm,
for my department. So there has
mhm.
to be a healthy conversation, because change happens also through conversations. So, and it starts with a mature, secure leader.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for that comment. I really appreciate that, and you mentioning about making sure that there's no silos within the organization, because that's this is part of our pre-event, right? Conversation on the the interconnected leader, and that's all about like ensuring that there's no misalignment and no silos happening within the organizations, right? And of course, like what we mentioned, people is always the key to this conversation. So that leads me to my next question, that for Annie and Jason, on how can we engage early adopters and influencers to champion change? I think in Paul's question, he also mentioned about this, right? Uh, so what's your take on this champion to early adopters and influencers to champion change initiative? Annie, would you like to start?
Hmm, sure. So, in my experience, it starts from selecting the right people and setting them up for success, right? So we tend to
Mm-hmm,
think of champions as senior leaders, those who have authority, able to
mm-hmm,
communicate. But in my experience of doing so many change projects, I feel that the most influential people are actually the informal connectors. Are like that
yes.
trusted admin staff everyone love to go to ask questions, and they're
Mm-hmm,
always in the office, right? So because these are the people that people will listen to, and their support carries real weight. I tell you that, and I feel that the most powerful person in the office is actually the admin of my CIO, not my CIO actually. And then also, not all adopters are created equal. Some you need to look for the
mm-hmm,
right personality, the credibility, whether or not they're respected by others. So this is the selection part. And once
mm-hmm,
selected, how do you engage them? Firstly, as I mentioned earlier on about the why, they need to know the why because they are your advocate. They are going to tell others what's this change about, what I need to do, what's the future look like, right? And then we need to
true.
make sure know what their role is. How many times our sponsor actually do not know what their role of a sponsor? We assume he's a sponsor, we assume he's a champion, but they do not know what is expected of them. And then we need to
Mm-hmm,
reinforce, recognize them, and take their feedback seriously. They are champions, yes, but engage them in the change, help, engage them in crafting that. Because if we do all this well, right, I tell you what,
mm-hmm,
advocates will become more than advocates. They will become
mm-hmm,
amplifiers. They will amplify
mm-hmm.
the message.
True.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. I love that. Would you like to add anything, Jason?
Yeah, well, I couldn't have said any better. What Annie said. I just want to add a little. If you can check this out, the video of Derek Sivers on leadership.
Mm-hmm,
So he shared there. This actually happened, and they were in a field. There are lots of people there, and there's one guy who started dancing.
Dancing, yeah.
mm-hmm,
And then they started dancing. One guy saw him. It took a few seconds, and the second guy started dancing also. After that,
mm-hmm,
the third guy came in, and then before you
mm-hmm,
know it, everyone was dancing. But it started not just with the first leader, but it's also about the first followers, first
mm-hmm,
followers. So it's a matter of finding that catalyst and finding the people who will be supporting that change. And then before you know it, everyone is gonna jump aboard the bandwagon because they saw some people like eating in a restaurant. You see a line, and what's with this
like,
restaurant? So now
yeah,
everyone's gonna be together, banding together.
exactly. I love that add on as well, Jason. So thank you for sharing that. Um, there's another comment here. Is possible to measure adaptability as an AQ score? I guess this is a comment or add on suggesting in terms of the adaptability AQ score, right? So, oh, we have more questions here. So we will have more questions to answer, everyone. I hope that's okay. So Roylan Torres asks, how can leaders address concerns and fears about change? Who would like to answer that question before we proceed to the other questions?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I think one of the first things you have to do is to signal that you're open for conversation. It
Mhm,
and signaling that you're open to conversation doesn't just mean you're calling for a town hall or an all hands meeting, although those are good, right? It's also being able to say that look, like here's this is where you can put questions, like here's a channel in our internal chat or whatever that might be. It's giving people the resources that they can read up on to say, if you want more details on these changes, look at this page on our internal website or something like that.
Mhm.
So it's really about giving people the knowledge as well, so that you don't just say, talk to us or your leaders and ask questions. You're giving them the details they would need to be able to ask questions, so that they
Mhm.
are also empowered to come to you to have that conversation. So I think for me, that's one of the key things that you can do right at the very beginning when change is happening.
Right, right.
Marilyn,
Thank you. And I guess,
um,
yes.
so I personally find this very helpful, okay? Because I
Mm-hmm,
feel that as leaders, we need to reframe our definition of resistance because it
mm-hmm,
carries a very negative connotation. People think, oh, he's
mm-hmm,
not following, he's resisting, so he's defiant. How about we reframe and say that that guy or that girl is actually
mm-hmm,
calling for help in a different way, right?
mm-hmm,
Anxious fear of losing a job, something like that. Would that help you
mm-hmm.
to think of how to help the person now? So that's
I
how I
love
would.
that. It's all about reframing what you're trying to say as well, right? As a leader, because sometimes it's just about like what's the perspective of other people's around this topic or around this change, right? So I love that. We have more questions. Wait. So, Nick Anthony Magistrado Corporal, what are some respectful and constructive ways team members can promote open communications and mutual understanding, especially when working with leaders who may have a more traditional or structured communication style? And I guess that's very common to here in the Philippines, or I guess in Asia in general, right? Where there's still like traditional way or very structured ways of leadership style. So who would like to share your comment here?
Yeah, well, in terms of having that framework, when we have our
Mm-hmm,
meetings, there are actually three types of meetings. The first one
mm-hmm,
would be fake harmony. It's like everything
mm-hmm,
we're all agreeing, but after the meeting,
mm-hmm.
and Asians are, well, specifically Filipinos,
Mm-hmm,
we're love to beat around the bush. We all agree in a meeting, but afterwards, that's when the real issues comes out. So fake harmony. The second is destructive conflict. So this is when there's you can see the tension, you can see the how agitated each other the team are with each other,
mm-hmm,
and they're vocal about it. So the
mm-hmm,
third is the most crucial in terms of really being able to draw out from everyone and laying all the ideas on the table, and it's constructive conflict, knowing
mm-hmm,
that okay, we can use this, we can sometimes fight, but you need to know your conflict tolerance.
mm-hmm,
So let's say for Asians it's a little bit lower, but for maybe Americans, they're about to throw each other something, and for them that's normal. But for us, we have to understand our group, our company's conflict tolerance, and then from there we get desensitized, meaning we face our fears. When you're getting desensitized, you expose yourself to something that you're not used to until you
mm-hmm,
become used to it. So now, in terms of the people within a group, sometimes we don't really need to agree, and we won't agree on everything. We can disagree
true.
agreeably, and many in our team would just want to be heard, not
Mm-hmm,
necessarily to acquiesce to their ideas or their decisions, but they just want to be heard. So if you
mm-hmm,
make them feel heard, even though the decision would move another direction, then that would be okay with them. So having constructive conversations or conflict would be able to do that. And it's like a basketball game wherein we know that it's part of the game, it's part of
mm-hmm,
the rules, part of the engagement, and we know that again, we want to hit the same goal. However, we may have different routes towards that goal. and finding the different routes and finding the best route would be key to it.
True. Thank you for that comment. And again, like it's really about um, probably being able to communicate it better, right? Depending on the people that you speak with, and really having that like opportunity to be able to um, like understand the culture of the organization as well on how it will work best right within the organization when because sometimes even if you're respectful that might be different from someone else's perspective, so that goes back to your upcoming session Jason. It's really understanding the different personalities and how they see perspectives also within as a person or based on their personalities, right? So I guess that's how we can also put it or to add on to that comments from Elijah and Jason. And we have another question. I really appreciate your difficult question, Peter. Thank you for engaging with us and giving us very important questions. And his question is, how important do you feel it is to gain executive alignment or any change initiatives? How frequent do you see this being done? So I guess we've already made mention quite a bit on this, how important the it is to have the leadership support as well as involvement in having change or if I could put it in a better word is like to a smoother change within organization, right? It's because there's a support and uh the leaders setting an example or uh, walking the talk right? So I guess so would anyone want to share insights or answers to this question from Peter on how important do you feel it is to gain executive alignment on any change initiative and how frequent do you see this being done?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
go ahead and jump in first here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and I think we've all already said that yes, it is very important to get executive alignment. I want to relate
Mhm,
this with the other question earlier. Actually, in my
mhm,
line of work as a management consultant, everything starts with change management, and everything has to start with the leader signing off on it. So for me, what I like to do is meet the leader where they're at.
mhm,
It's
mhm,
understanding like what is making that leader resistant to the change, because
mhm,
we have
mhm,
to be realistic here, right? Maybe they also have some fears about being able to manage it, or maybe they
mhm,
feel the responsibility, the weight of that change. So I
mhm,
like to start there and really understanding how can we support you as you try to lead other people through this change. So for me, it's very important to start there, giving them
mhm,
what they need. So for example, more traditional leaders would usually they like to make sure their speeches about change are polished, like they like it to sound like them. So we spend a lot of time doing that. Sometimes leaders they want more documentation, so give them more resources that they can look at, more
mhm,
spreadsheets that they can use to track change. So really understanding that, and if you're able to get that sweet spot where the leader says, okay, like I understand where this change is going or what you expect
mhm.
of me, then things could go smoother from there.
Thank you. And Annie, I believe you'd like to share something around this.
Yes. For me, for executive leadership, right? As a change manager, I see executive leadership play different roles. Yeah. Firstly, they can be a sponsor.
Mhm.
Secondly, they are an end user also of the change. And
Yes.
thirdly, they can be a champion for us. So it depends on, we cannot just generalize and, oh, a leader is a leader, but what role do you want that leader to play, right? If it's a sponsor, I would have a sponsor contract. I need you to know you are a sponsor. You need to do certain things, right? So that's how I engage executive level. Now, that's
Mhm,
only one. The other thing I want to bring to this discussion is also when there are more than one, right? If
mhm,
in a very large program, from the initiating sponsor, there will be many primary or local sponsors. That
mhm,
synergy among that group of people also very important,
mhm.
right? Otherwise, you bring the program nowhere. Yeah. So my thought on that.
Thank you. I love that. And I guess the next question is also quite relevant to this question, right, Eliza? So it's really more of like the mindset. So what's one mindset shift every leader must adapt to lead change more effectively? So this is like a continuation of Paul's question.
I think earlier Jason and Annie mentioned something about looking at other influential people in the organization
Mhm,
and getting them involved. Sometimes
mhm,
when you have to recognize that there are other influential people, you have to confront your own ego as well. So I think as leaders, we have to shift from a mindset of saying, how do I convince other people to follow me? And the mindset that's better with change is, how can I get other people involved in this change that we're trying to do? And it takes a lot of really looking in the mirror as well and saying, I cannot take credit for all of these changes that are happening. You have to involve other people. There's this idea of psychological safety that you have to acknowledge.
mhm,
So psych safety is research by Amy Edmondson, and that's something that you can read up on very widely online. So you have to recognize that there's a reality people are grappling with. Change makes people feel unsafe for many different reasons, and you have to
mhm,
figure out, what can I do to create an environment that will make them feel psychologically safe instead of
mhm,
unsafe. Because people will not get involved if they don't feel safe to speak up or to question things. So I think going from a mindset of saying, I will do this, I will handle this, to how can I get other people involved, that involves creating a lot of safety in the environment. And it's easier said than done, but
mhm.
I think leaders who are able to shift mindset are the ones who make change happen faster and in a more efficient manner.
True. And let me just share what Peter also shared. Again, it's really all about start with the mindset, right? And I really love this question that you shared on how can we get people involved and getting rid of the ego, which is kind of common, right? Yeah. So and Peter here shared as well the misalignment across, say, a board. I find it critical, and it is not a piece that is well done in my experience. For example, when asked what their position on the level of automation or centralization, they expect um, expectations, I guess, can vary a lot, right? Which, as you tell, will be a problem downstream in a project. So I think Annie also made comment to this since she has handled quite a bit of project. And again, this is a real driver of resistance, right? And like what Elijah shared is really creating that psychological safety within the organization, right? And also again, like making them understand on the why are we doing this, right? That's where we start, because again, real transformation happens successfully when you get people involved, right? Because that's how it is. Yeah. So thank you so much for this has been really like a very juicy conversation, I would say. We managed to cover quite a bit in just like less than 40 minutes. And I guess this is an opportunity now for us to, this is just a pre-event. So I guess it's an opportunity for us to invite our guests to, continue on joining us for all the pre-events. And also, of course, we will have our interconnected summit this coming 30 August, where we will discuss not only change management, but more. And so that will give them an opportunity to learn more, like how will they handle all of these potential challenges, resistance, and how can they get in better alignment? Because in one of my polls, actually, they said that like misalignment is one of the challenges, which is, see, Peter just said the why works better when there is an alignment, right? Yeah, and that's the purpose of the interconnected summit, to have that alignment within organization, and teach also leaders who will be there on how can they avoid misalignment, how can they be of influence to every stakeholders within the organizations, because that's very important in any transitions or transformation and changes within organization. And again, that goes back to the comment from Annie that it's really all about sharing the why. There's no such thing as over communication, I guess, when it comes to transformation, right? And it's really creating that environment of psychological safety, and getting everyone, not only the leaders, but everyone in the organization involved in the change, right? So um, that leads me to my last question. In fact, it's really, I guess, an invitation for you to, if there's only one takeaway that you'd like to share to people or our audience, in one sentence, if you have a magic wand. So this, we're now at the end of our conversation, and this is my magic wand or Mr. and Miss Universe question. So I'd like to invite everyone to use your magic wand, and if you do have that, actually, what will you do with it, particularly around our theme on change management? Would you like to start, Annie?
Yeah, sure. So if I have a magic wand, I would want to make change management visible, because right now it's the invisible force that leads transformation. And because it's not, you can't see it, it often goes unseen, unheard,
Mhm.
unprioritized, and unappreciated. So I want to make it visible, right? Things don't just happen, it's because of our intentional focus on change. Yes.
I love that. And I hope you really have your magic wand. But I guess, like, I mean, with the work that you do and with the community that you created, it's like really making that happen, right? Without the magic wand, making change management visible. Thank you, Annie. And Elijah, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so I think throughout our whole webinar, we've been talking about how change can bring fear. And if you think
Mm-hmm.
about the antidote to fear, it's when people have clarity and openness. So if I had a magic wand, I would like to give people the skill to ask questions and to receive questions with grace and understanding. I think questions can spark a lot of conversation. And if you know how to ask it right and how to receive it with grace and understanding, then a lot of good discussion can come from that.
Oh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. And last but not the least, your magic wand, Jason.
Well, I guess I was supposed to say clarity, so now I have to change my answer. Uh, well, I guess it's really about embracing change.
Mm-hmm,
So jumping off from what Elisha mentioned about psychological safety, it's going to be
mm-hmm,
difficult to shape culture without psychological safety, and for everyone to
exactly.
feel safe if there is change, and feel
Mm-hmm,
unsafe if we are coasting along. So
mm-hmm.
embracing change, like how we would tell people to embrace problems. That's why my wife would always embrace me, hug me, uh, because I'm her biggest blessing.
So if that's in one sentence, Jason, am I right to say that your magic one is about embracing change and problems?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Because again, like in every problem, in every change, it's an opportunity for us, and that's the reason why it depends on how you see it. Especially Annie, you're Chinese. I mean, you're Singaporean, but you're Chinese, and there's a saying, right? The way the character was written. Is it crisis? The
Crisis, but there you can
Yeah,
also become an opportunity.
Mhm.
yeah, it can also become an opportunity. So I guess that's a very good example of what Jason just shared in his magic wand, right? So
Mm.
I really love this conversation. I can't get enough, and I really appreciate the engagement of our live audiences. And even if you're watching on a replay, feel free to ask your questions, share your aha moments and takeaways on this conversation. Or if you have specific questions that you'd like to address to Annie, Elijah, or Jason, please tag them so they can answer the question. And Peter said, "Thank you so much, team. What an interesting topic. It was a charming and interesting event. And our best wishes from ACMP AMZ." Wow. So thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you so much for your insights. I really cannot give as much meat without all of you here. So thank you again, Annie, Eliza, and Jason. Is there like a last comment or feedback or like any parting words that you'd like to share other than your magic wand?
You're good.
All
Thank
good.
you.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And of course, we look forward to welcoming you in our exciting The Interconnected Summit, which will be on the 30th of August, 2025. That's going to be in Manila, Philippines, and on virtual Zoom. So do join us if you'd like. If you're enjoying this kind of conversations, we would love to have you and give you more. Yeah. So see you there. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day and stay safe
Thank
for those who
you.
are in the Philippines. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.